Let's talk about technical difficulties. They're going to happen. It's just a numbers game. You do enough presentations, you will have a device that malfunctions, a file that won't open, or a bad internet connection. I've experienced it all, and so will you. You can't stop technology from being unreliable, but what you can do is take steps so that you stay in control when it is. Story time. I was once running a morning workshop on a Monday for a group of professionals. And I thought we would start with an energizer. I shared my Zoom screen and sound and turned on CNC Music Factory's Gonna Make You Sweat so we could have a little dance party. Problem was, I was traveling and my internet connection was terrible. So instead of the fun groove fest that I had planned, we had 50 very confused interns awkwardly trying to bop to a choppy rendition of a 90s dance hit. It was not good. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. But there are things you can do, steps you can take to prevent it from being an issue. And here are my top 3. Tip number 1 is to be prepared. When you need a slide deck, a file, notes, anything for a presentation, make sure you have multiple copies. Have backups of your backups. Have a copy on your device, on the cloud, in an email, on a USB, and a copy with anyone else who is helping to host or lead that event so they can take over for you in case you need them to. This has saved me so many times when I needed a backup and one was available for me. Having a tech mishap in a professional setting can be embarrassing, but it's not the end of the world. If you have a backup ready, people will be impressed by how smoothly you can keep going and how cool you are under pressure. Which brings me to tip number 2. Just take a breath and let it go. Things are not going to be as perfect as you hoped for them to be, but the worst thing you can do is to get flustered, try to fix everything, and apologize like crazy to your audience for what happened. Tech mishaps happen. Everybody knows it, and they're very forgiving. I had a workshop once where my slide deck failed once, twice, 3 times, and then my computer randomly shut itself off and kicked me out of the call. So here's what I did. I picked up my phone, I logged into Zoom on my phone, and I kept going. I asked my host to present the slides that I had shared with her in advance, and we finished the workshop, and people got a lot out of it. I got lots of feedback afterwards from people surprised that I could just keep going after so many things had gone wrong. But it's from being prepared and not expecting everything to be perfect. You just take what you've got and you work with it. So many people are going to freak out, spiral when this happens, that if you don't do that, they're going to be impressed by how cool you are. So how exactly do you stay calm when this happens? It gets a lot easier when you use tip number 3, which is to know your content really, really well. And when I say know your content, I don't mean memorize your content. You don't need to memorize. Knowing it means that you can explain it to your friends over dinner. It means you can explain it to your parents. And I know this sounds obvious, but I am telling you to practice your presentation. Practice it out loud. Practice it in front of other people or in front of your cat. Practice it under conditions that very closely mimic what you're going to experience when you deliver it. So you're going to be more comfortable in that moment. And in the long term, you're going to know your content really well if you use your content consistently. So think about things that people ask you about all the time and come up with a toolkit of analogies, explanations, frameworks for helping people understand it. And you can almost create modules with this that you can pull out in any setting. Someone wants you to talk about this, you've got your module, you've got your way of explaining it, presenting it, that you use over and over and over again in combination with other things. And so when you lose your notes or you get into a stressful situation, you have that knowledge, you can just rattle it off because you've done it so many times the same way. This makes every subsequent preparation so much easier because you have this mental toolbox of things that you can pull out and combine as you need them. So remember, keep multiple copies of your materials, stay calm and move on, and know your material really, really well. I know that technical difficulties when you're presenting can be scary and stressful, but if you use these 3 tips, You can handle anything.